Hello, everyone. It's your girl, Miracle Sims, and you are watching the GSL Talk Show. Tonight, Dr. Lisa Smith is back, and I'm sure she's going to blow our minds because we are going to be talking all about M.A.P, M.A.P, or minor attracted persons. So, stay tuned.
Miracle Sims, let's go.
Welcome back to the GSL Talk Show. I am here once again with the awesome Dr. Lisa Smith. Hey, how you doing?
Hey, thank you so much for having me back.
Yes, ma'am. We had to have you back. I know I told you that day. I was like, I want you to come back and talk about this topic. And so you came on back to, visit us. And I'm excited. But at the same time, a little bit creeped out. But we'll get into that.
Hopefully we can help the community understand why this topic is important, right? Because it was so controversial when we talk about M.A.P.S and minor attracted persons, right? And what that actually means for the community, right? And so I would love to hear how you were freaked out and how we can help parents better understand, because we only focus on the fact that these children and teens and women can be harmed. But the other piece of that is, okay, after a pedophile or someone has served their time, they come back into the community. And what does that mean to the community? And how do we help with rehabilitation, if that's even possible? And what do we do about those who are attracted to minors who haven't harmed children, but still the attraction is there? So it's a huge controversy that isn't talked about a lot. And I'm so happy that you had the forethought to know that this is also something that needs to be addressed, especially since it was so controversial.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Ooh, y'all, look, it's already getting heavy around here. Goodness gracious. But we're definitely going to get all into it. And I appreciate you again for being willing to have this conversation and everything like that. I mean, do you want to give us an update real quick? Like, how has things been for you since our last conversation?
Since our last conversation, I've been doing a lot of interviews. I've been talking to a lot of parents. I am so excited for the opportunity for this coverage and for you getting my message out there and the support that you provided, because it gets me to larger audiences and we can start talking about these things that are so taboo. And so I have had at this point, I have interviews with so many people. I'm starting to do college tours where I'm talking about this with the teens, right? Because we have what we call the red zone for freshmen who are entering college. And then I'm also getting conversations about, okay, so I was an adult that was sexually assaulted. And what does that mean for me raising children, right? Or elderly who weren't able to talk about this secrecy that may have been sexually assaulted, and they're in their 60s and their 70s. And now they feel confident enough that they can have these conversations. So thank you so much for your assistance with that.
Yes, ma'am. No problem. No problem at all, man. You just opened up a whole nother can of worms when you mentioned the elderly, because I was thinking about, like, I've heard about, some of them that have been abused in nursing homes and whatnot and stuff. And so this thing goes deep, y'all. I mean, because listen, even a quick Google search for me to look into minor attracted people, to be able to, at least share a definition today, just in case somebody don't know, led me to so many other different things. I mean, I came across something. What was it called here? Let me go ahead and just tell you what it was. This is one of the things that hold on. Oh goodness, did I lose it? Okay, no. Oh, I must have lost C. See, someone don't want me to reveal the information to y'all. We're gonna have to find it so I can find it. But it was something along the lines of it was coming, it came across like these different names of different things. First it was like, well, what is it called when a minor is attracted to an adult? What is it called when this, that, and the other? And I'm like, huh? Then it got to some name where it was like a person that's attracted to trees. I'm like, listen, at some point we gotta like as humans realize that there's something wrong here. Like, why is there even names for this stuff? Why is there like nobody's questioning that at all? Instead it's like something that's being, I feel like something is wanting us to just accept all of these things as normal, or something along those lines. And it's just, even what you just said about the elders, I mean, obviously there's something called, when people want to, are, I guess, attracted to the dead, they want to have sex with the dead. I mean, it's just
So
so.
I hear your issue in trying to say, why is this normalized? Why do we as a society want to normalize pedophilia? Or in terms of Aileen Walker, who came up with the term minor attracted persons, right? Why are we normalizing that? And the problem that people don't understand is that for diagnosis, we have to call it something. We have to give it a name. We're not trying to stereotype it. We're not trying to sensationalize it. If we're going to provide a certain treatment or intervention, or rehabilitation, it has to have a diagnosis, right? Because if you think about it, you can't call lung cancer is totally different from breast cancer. Breast cancer is totally different from prostate cancer. And until we start diagnosing it, then we can't identify the symptoms, right? But no, it's
Right.
not about normalization at all. It's about, okay, we have this group or this small population of people, and we don't really know the numbers because, let's be clear, we don't have consistent reporting and we
Mm-hmm.
don't have consistent interventions, right? But we
Right.
know that this issue exists. 1 in 4, right? 1 in 6 boys. And as I said before, that is a larger number because these are the ones we know about, right? The ones we
Right.
don't know about are so much more problematic because that means you have an undetected rapist or sexual violent offender that is
Mm-hmm.
in the community that people are not aware is there. Okay. So when we talk
Yeah.
about the professor who came up with the term minor attracted persons, Dr. Aileen Walker, many people said that she was trying to normalize this, right? And as
Mm-hmm.
a academic, I would say we need a name for this, right? Pedophilia only fits a certain group. And so let me run down the different names that people aren't aware of, right? Pedophiles only apply to prepubescent children, attraction to prepubescent children. But we also have hebephiles that are attracted to pubescent children, right? So we also have epiphobiles who are attracted to post-pubescent children, right? And all of those are part of the pedophilic realm, right? But most of the conversations are only centered around prepubescent as well as children under 18, right? The
Mm-hmm.
hebephiles. So
Mm-hmm.
this is where people are saying, well, why do we need to give it another name? It's important because in the sociology as well as the psychological realm, children are at different developmental stages, right? So you have elementary school kids, You can't call elementary school kids middle school or junior high school kids. And you can't call them, they don't have the same cognitive awareness as a high schooler. So that's why you have these different names. And like I said, in terms of diagnosis, it's important that we give it a name so that we can provide an intervention for these specific things. The other that is not talked about are juveniles that engage in curiosity, but also have an attraction to, let's say, pubescent or pubescent minors, right? So maybe that might help you better understand the need for us to make these classifications, because like diabetes, when you're under a certain age, it's called a certain diabetes. Diabetes 1. Diabetes 2 is when you're above a certain age. So that's why we need to make these distinctions. So the interventions and the therapies and the counseling fits that person's symptoms.
And I mean, I understand that. And I guess, I mean, I guess I apologize for if I come across like,
Oh, no,
being
no
insensitive
apology. I
to
just wanted to clear
that
that up so people
situation.
understood.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, well, I'm just saying in general, I do understand like a need for names, but I, I think the thing for me is just, I mean, I don't know if it's as a parent or maybe as a person that, it did go through what I went through with the babysitter situation and all that type of stuff. It's just like, personally, I'm like, can't we just leave kids out of the station? Like, why do we have to, like, why? I mean, I guess we don't know why people are attracted to what, in that way. But it's just, I mean, I don't know. It's just a lot, I guess, to think
You know
about
what?
as a parent or.
And so I would
I wish
love,
people just leave kids alone. Like, like.
you know what? I would love that more than anything. I would love my job not to exist, to be perfectly honest. I have too many young kids in my crew, in my family that I love and adore. And I'm always I mean, there are times where I'm in tears just listening to stories of children who have been harmed. But in it, here's the problem. Kids are vulnerable, right?
Yeah.
They many people have easy access to them, and so a person who is selfish and needs certain things find this population easily accessible, right?
Mm,
Do I have
mhm,
what children do I have access to, and how can I live out my needs or my wants and desires with this child? And
mm,
how can I socially isolate this child? Right. And
mhm,
so that's why, I mean, even when you look at domestic violence, right? Children are vulnerable because they are physically impaired, meaning that they're not strong enough. They can't fight back. They're 3 feet tall, right? When you're
yeah.
looking at this opposing adult who's bullying them and mistreating them. And that's why we as a community must find ways to protect them when they can't protect themselves, if that makes sense.
Yes, ma'am. I totally agree. I totally agree. Which is another thing that I'm kind of like just surprised or shocked to see, like, this back and forth when it comes to that, even that idea of protecting the children. It's like we could all agree on that, no matter what you believe, no matter what you look like, whatever. Can we all agree to protect children? And it seems like we don't all agree on that. I think obviously, I think one of the most one of the most horrific things is hearing about, even this affects babies too. Like, this isn't like just toddlers. Like,
Yeah.
came across, there was I wish it was on my screen right
Well,
now.
I have a
The
case.
name of
I
it.
can tell you a
The
case in New
name.
York City in which a toddler was found dead. And I need to put a disclaimer because what I'm about to say is horrific. But the
Mhm.
child was found to have choked on semen, 18 months old.
Now, I
Early
don't know if that's the
stage,
same one that I
early
heard, but I
stage,
heard about.
one of the earlier cases in my career was that case. And it was their uncle. the child's uncle. And so I promise you, there's not a lot of conversation surrounding how could something like this happen? How enraged does this make a community to actually put things in place, protocols in place that could save an 18-month-old who can't speak for themselves? You understand what I'm saying to you?
Yes, ma'am.
It
Yes,
is
ma'am.
heartbreaking to know that these cases are happening every day. And then when I was here before, not every 9 minutes, CPS confirms a sexual assault of a minor. Every 9 minutes. So, in the time we sit and discuss this topic, in the 60 minutes, we're going to have 6 cases before our discussion is over. Is there a need? Absolutely. Do communities know these statistics? Absolutely. Do they know there are undetected sex offenders and predators in their communities? Absolutely. Does the crime fit the punishment? Absolutely not. Do we provide rehabilitation for pedophiles? Absolutely not. Do we sometimes normalize the fact that a child could be victimized either physically or sexually or both? We absolutely do. How do I know it's normalized? Because our laws and our protocols do not support protecting the child. We are reluctant as law enforcement to test sexual assault kits. Most of the time when parents bring their children to an ER, they provide this information. Sometimes there isn't a social worker to help the parent. Okay? So we are failing children under 18. But then when we move to the Me Too movement, we failed there too. So it's not just children under 18. We're talking now adults. We're failing the LGBTQIA. And the conversation when we talk about M.A.P.S is, and it's highly controversial, when this person returns to our community, if it's 90 days they're incarcerated or up to a year, how do we as a community, or is this our role and job as a community? Well, let's send them back into the community. What are we doing to ensure that they're not hurting anyone else?
I'm shocked to hear this 90-day situation that you just said. Like, what do you mean? Like, I
Okay,
know people say
let's talk
like
about Jeffrey Epstein,
castration
well-known
should be
Jeffrey
an option.
Epstein. Jeffrey Epstein, well-known sex trafficker, had an island off the coast of St. Thomas. Everybody knew. What did he do? He got a sweetheart deal that put him back in the community. He was under house arrest, but could go to work every day and often brought some of the girls that he was trafficking to his workspace. That's what I mean by 90 days. There are some who get 90 days. Now, the laws are starting to become much more strict, but look at how people who come forward, look how they are ostracized by their community when they tell the secret. Let's just start in the home. Who believes them?
Right.
I had an interview just last week. Okay. There are kids who are being sexually assaulted by their parents, one of their parents, and yet they still have to live in the house if the parent chooses, if that parent chooses not to report. They still have to go to, I'll give you another case. They still have to go to um, visitation with the offending parent because the other parent will not tell law enforcement, or they do. In one case, I have a case, Instagram case, in which a mother has repeatedly told the cops, went to the courts, and the court said that the testimony of the counselor is not admissible, and that child continues. Judge said this. to see the parent who's offending them, because the judge and the law enforcement don't necessarily believe the mother that this child, who's 4 years old, let me make that clear, is being sexually assaulted by the parent. And when that mother went to CPS and the hospital, because the hospital is required to mandatorily report, but also provide an examination. CPS didn't even check the body. So our normalization of the issue is coming by way of reduced sentencing for policies, law enforcement in action, first responders in action, and information suppression by the court system. That's what we're fighting. That's what we're facing.
So you
go ahead? I'm listening.
No, I was just gonna ask a question. I can try to remember it. You can go ahead, because what you're saying is definitely.
So if you hear my anger, it's my passion. Please forgive me. I do not wish to come off as adversarial or conflicting. I'm saying that we and every community have to fight the institutionalization of secrecy, or the unintentional way secrecy is promoted by inaction. That's why I talk a lot about this theory. Denial. Who's denying? That child or that youth comes to you and says, this happened to me. Who is the person that's most likely going to deny it? The person they talk to first. Who is most likely going to ostracize that child? The person they talk to first. Because when they identify that the person that harmed them, it's usually someone they know well. And if it's happening in their family and it's a brother or a sibling or a sister or an uncle, they're not going to report it. If it's a father who's providing an income, they're not going to report it. If it's a father who is considered and classified as a minor attracted person, well, how long has this been going on? Because before they became a parent, they knew that they may have been attracted to minors. They knew this. What do we as a community have in place, right? Which is the reason why I say, yes, this is a controversial topic, but it brings up a lot of important points. What do we as a community have in place for minor attracted persons before they become parents, before they're in environments that children will be placed in and in their care? What do we have in place for them? Do you know of any rehabilitation and intervention programs that we have for minor attracted persons prior to the commitment of a crime? Because trust and believe, they know that. They will tell you, most pedophiles will tell you, I was born this way. There are some who were socially introduced and now they're chasing that sexual event because they themselves were kids who were sexually assaulted. But what about those who say they were born this way? What resources do we provide for them? What resources do we provide for them if they commit a crime? How long are those resources in place? What kind of intervention? Who wants to work with them? Do you want to work with someone who's a pedophile with all your history and all your concern? Would you want to work with someone who's harmed a child? More importantly, who would identify themselves to be a pedophile, a hebephile? Who?
Well, I mean, therein lies several problems, because I mean, they're probably not one admitting it, and then. So, well, I guess the question I was going to ask is, do you think that this is a mental issue that gives them this drive, or whatever the case is, or like, I mean, I know there's no, I guess, way to know completely. I know as a believer, I obviously have my perspective, because I mean, at the end of the day, you know, I feel like when it comes to sin or whatnot, I guess that's part of it, right? Wanting to just do things your own way or whatever. But as somebody that's, I guess, obviously to work with people and that type of thing, like do you personally feel like it's like a mental thing that people can work through? Like, can they, you know, okay, first confess and admit or whatever, and then say somebody is attracted and they haven't done anything, or they haven't, you know, crossed any line with the child, but they know deep in within, and so they go and they try to get some type of help. Like, I mean, I guess what would that even look like? And like, do you think they're
Sure.
working on things mentally, or do they, you know, like,
Sure.
I don't know.
Well,
Am I asking the question? But
it's a great question. It's a great question, because what people don't understand is the pedophile that doesn't commit a crime is still attracted to children. So yes, I think it is a mental health disorder. However, and this is going to come guns blazing, big warning lights. What region of the world are you living in? Child brides in the Islamic faith is well known, right? Prior to the 1900s, if we go back to some of the state laws, you could get married at 14. Hello, the Presleys, Elvis Presley did, right? In certain countries, you can get married at these pubescent stages. Okay. In
but
Germany,
not to someone your own age, to someone older than you.
well, no, both,
No.
right? But
Okay.
in the Islamic faith, I'll tell you, it's a strange story. It's one of the reasons why I champion this effort. My cousin and her sister, my cousins were kidnapped by their father in the 1970s and taken to Saudi Arabia. At 12, my cousin, who was older than me, two 2 years older than me, was
Mm-hmm.
married at 12 to a Muslim man from Philly. Okay. She married
Mm-hmm.
him because she had to. The laws there allow it. She came back. She only picked, her father gave her three options, all men over 30. Now, I'm not throwing shade on Islam. I'm just stating the facts of my family history. Okay. When I saw her again, she left at 9. When I saw her again, she was married with a child and she was 13. She did not know how to care for herself or her child. She was physically and sexually assaulted by her husband. But in this culture, that could be considered pedophilia. Okay. But yet, in that culture, it is allowable. So, first, when we look at this, what aspect of what is allowable in our society? When we go back to the 50s and the 40s, there were laws that said you could get married at 14. A 13-year-old man could marry a 13-year-old girl. You were expected to be a adult by 18. Have a home, right? There's a lot of things that our past um, has provided for the issues that we see today. Okay. For you, that's sickening. But back then, that was socialized for all communities, that people were expected to get married in their teens or have a love interest.
I mean, but even for me, like, if I think about that, I, in my head, I'm thinking someone the same age, but at the same time, that's weird because, like, you know, what was I, 14? You're saying like that's middle school or something. So how could they even? I mean, now granted, I know that I guess at certain time period there weren't much school or whatever, or it wasn't as strategic or, in place as it is now. But uh but basically what you're saying is, the 30-year-old man can marry the 12 or 14-year-old
Oh no,
girl,
not
whatever the case
can,
is.
did.
It did,
Did.
and I guess that was somewhat normal or whatever in certain
In that culture,
cultures or
right?
whatever.
So the agency of women in that culture is significantly reduced when you start looking at marital laws. But let's bring it back to the United States, because I don't want to get off on tangents, right? We have this issue. We know that there are undetected sex offenders in our communities. We know that if we do a basic check of the registry, we may absolutely find out where they may live. How many people do that? Many people avoid the need for a background check when they bring people into the house to take care of their kids. And you said you're giving a story about a babysitter, right? But most people don't do these checks. Many of those background checks are only done when you are working with children, but it's not consistently done in corporate and in the private sector. It's not consistently done, right? There's constantly stories of pedophiles that fall through the cracks, that committed a crime in one state and came over to another state, because our national registry does not provide a lot of detail. And I'm telling you, many people don't use their state registry as much as they should. I mean, it's becoming more commonplace, but not enough, right? But here's the thing: if that person is attracted to minors and they haven't committed a crime, what do we do then? There's no record. I haven't heard anybody. What do we do? How are we helping them with this attraction to a minor? What resources do we have in place? And if your answer is we have none, it's not even discussed, we're not going to be able to provide any solutions because there are none, which is the reason why Aileen Walker was bringing this to the forefront. She was saying, look, people, you have a number of people who are attracted to minors who haven't committed a crime. What about them? What do we do with them? What can we do with them? Why isn't there something? Why isn't there confirmation? Why are we reactive? But more importantly, what people are missing is that we're going to put people back in the community that need intervention and programming, counseling. Some solutions for a person who has harmed a child is medical castration. What do you think about that?
I've heard of it. And that's what I thought. I mean, now I don't know if that's in place. Is that in place? Is that
Oh yes. Oh yes.
so?
Depending on the state you live in, as well as Canada, you can ask for medical castration. However,
Does that
it's
help?
not going to stop the attraction. It's just like saying you're attracted to a certain individual, like we talk about in the LGBTIQA. Do you think we could provide a program that stops that person from being attracted to that individual? No, there's no way. Is it successful? Right? But basically, that's what we need to do. That's a solution we need to come up with. That's an idea we need to face when we're dealing with people who harm and don't harm children, because there are those out there who are attracted to individuals but have not committed a crime. But yet the attraction still exists.
See, I guess for me, like as somebody that believes the Bible and whatnot, it's like, okay, when does self-control become a factor? Like, Like when does like having whatever attraction doesn't mean you have to act on the attraction. And maybe there is some way to get some type of help, but like you said, I mean, if we're just now defining these things, then maybe there not say there is no help, but I mean, I don't know what type of help that person would need. For example, if I'm like, okay, I have this attraction, whatever the case is, but I'm not saying anything about it, nor am I acting about it, then I mean, I don't know if it's not to say it's not an issue. So do you feel like it would still be an issue then?
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
because I'm trying to figure out like what makes it the
Still an
issue. Is
issue.
it the acting on it makes it an issue, or is it
It's the criminality of it. Remember, they have thoughts about it. I have thoughts about a lot of things. Some of them are criminal. Have
right?
I engaged in a criminal act? No. Right? So as a researcher, an academic, and a psychologist and hypnotherapist, I am not brought into the situation until a crime has been committed.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure there's a lot of people who were born and died and never acted on their minor attracted profile. Never did. But the
Right.
truth was they were still attracted to children.
Hmm.
Pubescent or prepubescent, they were still attracted to children. That thought is still there. There's a lot of pornography that has that. And sometimes it's just not children, it's adults that look like children. Like I said, I had a pedophile that lived upstairs from me. The way he was back in the community. I met him on the night I was moving in to a complex in West Orange, New Jersey, prominent area. He told me why, because he was like, "You need help." So yes, I need help. I have a whole comedy show on this about this conversation. He helped me and then invited me in his house for wine. Now, like most people, we like wine, so I didn't see any harm in it. And we get in the house. He offers me wine. He locks the door, and then he asked me what I do. I told him what I do. I am a psych professor, an advocate, and a hypnotherapist. And he was like, "Oh, well, I'm a recovering pedophile." And suddenly, I was scared. I was
Wow.
in a person's house. Nobody knew I had just moved in but him and maybe the
Right.
landlord. And
Yeah.
I felt like I was threatened. And then I was like, "Oh, he said pedophile. So he's not interested in me." But, my curiosity got the best of me. And that's when my safety came in. I felt more safe because I wasn't his target. And I needed to know more if I was going to be good in this arena. I needed to
Mm-hmm.
know, what is life like for a pedophile who people know about. And he said he was in recovery. And you know how
Hmm.
he justified the way in which he satisfied his minor attracted personality was
Mm-hmm.
that he looked for you, and he had an MO, please be clear. He had an MO, and he said he liked young white males under the age of 13. So he would find lovers that were over the age of 18, but looked like they were younger, much younger, looked like they could be pubescent.
Hmm.
Okay. So he's not committing a crime any longer, but he's still feeding that desire.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
What would you say
Mm-hmm.
about that? He served his time. He's back in the community. But what would you say about that? And before I finish that story, I'm going to tell you one of the most scariest things he ever said to me. So go ahead, tell me, what would you say about that?
Oh Lord, I don't know what to say about that. Like on one hand, I guess you said he served his time. He's finding another way. Uh, and I guess these people are of age. I mean, I don't know if you're actually helping yourself, to still engage in certain things. But I mean, hey, I don't know what to say, Dr. Lisa. I don't, because I don't, um, you know,
And you know
yeah.
what, Miracle?
I have more questions, so let me just let you
glad
tell
that I'm so glad that you don't know what to say, because here's the thing. We're not providing the tools for these answers. And there's so many complexities to this issue. And the complexities are not just with the children and the teens that are under 18, but the complexities are also with the pedophiles.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? The hebephiles, the complexities are also there. And you can't solve this problem by looking at it from a one-sided lens or telling
Mm-hmm.
only a certain type of story. Right? Because
Mm-hmm.
there are lots of psychologists and counselors that are working with pedophiles and minor attracted persons. And more importantly, is we need to make it safe for them to get help on their own. And we just don't do that. And so that's just a reality of the situation. I'm sure there's people who are like, I don't like what she's saying at all. Like, hold up. Let's be clear. This is an issue. It's an issue that we hope that many of the families that are listening, or parents, or people that are listening to this podcast, want to start considering. Right? It's easy to throw daggers at people who are bringing this to light, but guess what? We don't have enough solutions for the predator and the offender and the children and the teens. So what's your questions, please? I'm all for it.
Well, I know you still got to finish telling me the story too, and your other thing that you was about to tell
Okay,
me.
so this is what he said, and so this
Okay.
is, you could say what you want about me, but this is what he told me. He said, I go into there's a ShopRite not far. I go into the ShopRite, and you can't understand how many more I know that are out there, because we know each other. And he's talking about other pedophiles, how many existed in the West Orange area. And he can spot them, he says, in the ShopRite. And there are so many more out there like him. That's what he told me. And so that goes back to the undetected sex offenders that this theory covers: denial, inaction, and information suppression. Someone is denying, someone is not acting, and someone is suppressing the information that keeps us safe or allows us to provide solutions.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the end of the story. And that's
Gotcha.
what I found the most disturbing. Was that
For sure, yeah.
he knew by sight who they were, and I didn't. And I'm the expert. There's no way I could walk into I have Publix down here. There's no way I could walk into a Whole Foods and tell you who's the pedophile in there, but he can. And if he can do it, that means the other ones can do it too. What are we missing? Do we need some information from them that tells us how we can better identify them?
Yeah.
And the only reason why he talked to me was because when he told me about his issue, I did not judge him. So it made it safe for him to provide more information. And as long as we're coming from a judgment aspect, I guarantee you there are more out there who would like to say more, but they feel as if their life is in jeopardy. And I totally agree with them, because people are going to say, listen, I don't like that you have her on your show saying these things, but this is the reality.
I mean, yeah, it's definitely,
And you said you wanted me back. You said you wanted me back.
I do want you back. Come on back and keep telling us and whatnot, because we need to know this information. I mean, and if you guys doubt this stuff, I mean, I've heard and seen several things over the past few years in regards to this. I mean, I know California changed their law recently where I think it's like 10 years between ages now. Then they don't even report that person if whoever they offended is between the 10-year age or something like that happened. That's a fairly recent thing. I've also heard recently about this Telegram group that got caught sharing their child porn and whatnot and stuff. You know, either things I guess that they made, but then also things that, you know, what, you know, the other things that had, and we're talking about child porn. Did I make sure that I say that
Yes,
right?
yes, yes.
Okay.
There's
And,
a
you
lot
know,
of anime. There's a lot of anime that's child porn related, and it's going under the radar.
so, so you know, I guess here's a random question. Do you think that these people need to be separated from society then, or you know, like, because on some hand when it comes to this conversation, I noticed that you were saying, like, you know, oh, they're back with us, X, Y, and Z. So is it that you think they need to be separate, or do you think that no, we need to know who they are at all times? You know, maybe not to say they need to wear signs or something, but I don't know, like, what do you, I guess when we're pointing out the fact that they are, you know, back into society
Right.
fairly quickly within 90 days to a year, whatever the case is, like, what do you think, I guess is the next step in regards to like what needs to be done, or what's not being done now that should be done? Like, should they
Sure.
be separate or should they be?
Do I think they should be separate from society? No. Separation of that's not as we have seen in society. You separate people from society does not change the fact that this is a problem, and it's definitely not a solution. Okay? Just on basis of race, when we use segregation and things like that, that did not change, right? So our
Yeah.
history shows that when we separate people from society, we put a target on them, and so those ill-meaning people may decide that they should go out and harm these individuals. But at the same time, our sex registries identify the individuals, and they're usually on that sex registry for a certain time frame. So I believe that that is important. I think that we as a community must use it more frequently. But since we know that they are there, since we know that they may very well be right there on the end of your block, as Lil Wayne says, what are we doing to make sure that this person can now be reintroduced into society? We have a lot of reentry programs for convicted felons, right?
Okay.
But they get a lot of rehabilitation, right? Some of that rehabilitation is state mandated. Some of that rehabilitation is an option that this individual selects. Now, the best thing that we can do is to bring people who suffer from these issues into the solution forum. They're the ones living with the issue. They're the ones who have to face it every day. Those of them who are actively working, like what they would call the no maps, those are the ones who have not committed a crime, but yet that attraction is still there. They are successfully, at the point in time that you identify them, they have successfully managed a way not to act or with criminal intent or to harm a child. Right. So we need to talk to them. They need to tell us what is a viable solution, because they're the ones who are right now successfully overcoming that. And they can start telling the community, this is the best way that I have found that helps me stave off this attraction. Right? So the
Yeah.
fact
Yeah.
that the pedophile who lived upstairs from me was telling you that this was what he deemed was a solution. Yes, it still fed my attraction, but now it's not unlawful.
Right. Right.
Right? And now I'm not harming a child, a vulnerable, weaker child who doesn't have the physical prowess to fight me off. That's what I'm saying when I say weak. Okay?
Yeah. 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 No, I understand. Yeah.
Right?
Uh.
So we can't put, you know how they used to put a scarlet letter, right? We can't do that. We need them to give us better solutions, because I'm not attracted to minors. So I can't tell you what's going to stop it. I
Right.
need
Right.
someone who's attracted to a minor to tell me what they're doing, what they have done. And I can help them come up with even better solutions. Do I think medical castration is the way? Absolutely not. Sexual pleasure is something that all of us derive wonderful euphoric experiences from. I'm not going to tell someone that they should give up their sexual ability to arouse themselves. It's not a solution. Right? It's not a solution. They won't be stimulated anymore, but that also makes the assumption that we're just talking about men. What about women? Where's the castration in that? Right?
Yeah.
Women are also perpetrators. So that only solves part of the problem. And that's why I'm saying, as we pull back the onion and we see these different layers, we're ill-equipped to solve this problem. And we're not talking to the right people. Don't go to another psychologist, a hypnotherapist who's not minorly attracted to a child. We don't have the right tools. We don't have the right information. And as much as we want to ostracize and separate, they have information that helps keep future children safe.
Right. Well, I don't know if we're talking to any minor attractive people today, but I mean,
no, definitely not. I promise you that.
Well, no. I mean, well, whoever watches this is what I'm saying.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah, no. But maybe, I don't know if you want me to send them to you so y'all can come up with some programs.
Why not?
So if so, please help us by contacting Dr. Lisa. And let's come, I don't know if we need some nonprofits out here or something. I mean, and there could be people that are addressing this. So I'm not saying that there aren't.
No, there are. There are.
There could be some programs already out. But
for juveniles,
there could be more. For juveniles, I'm sorry.
For juveniles, okay, good. As well, because juveniles are also can fall into this area. Also,
I'm just still flabbergasted by the idea of babies, but I mean, because I don't even know how to even help that person, when it comes to even if people are trying to find alternative ways by using adult people, like I guess when it comes to tiny people, maybe they could, but we're not trying to fetishize people. That's on another level. That might be a whole nother conversation.
It is.
It's like, I guess you could just deal with smaller people. I don't know. Dr. Lisa, thank you for once again giving me a good old headache.
It is not my intent, but I am so grateful to have this opportunity to share this with you. And remember, if you need to contact me, I'm at right2consent.com or any of TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter at right2consent. Because like I said, we need to have these conversations much more frequently, and it needs to be something that's not taboo. And this really shouldn't be the first time you're hearing this conversation. It should be more commonplace that we have these discussions and have solutions.
Yes. I mean, I'm sure there's much more to discuss centered around all the things that you work on and everything. So that you are welcome to come back anytime.
Oh, I promise you, I'm going to let you know. We need to talk about this. It's not being talked about.
I know there's a lot of things to talk about. And, hey, for parents, for, victims, for even those, again, obviously, that may be dealing with these different things. I mean, to everybody who may be watching or listening to this, like at the end of the day, I feel like, hey, God still loves all of us, regardless of what area we're in. And I just know that, like, it may be difficult to have the conversation as parents, right? It may be obviously difficult to go through these things as a victim. And obviously, I'm sure it's still difficult to live with certain things like that as well. But, there are people that, want to make more solutions like Dr. Lisa here. And I guess me, trying to bring more light and add more conversations and things like that. And I hope that you all, people across the board, I guess, take this conversation as a starting point to address it in whatever lane that you may be in. Address it as a parent, address it as victims, address it as
An offender.
I hate offenders, or people living with this, what we're talking about today. And yes, by all means, anybody that's living with it and conquering it, we need to learn more from you. So thank you, right, for conquering, right, and everything like that. And yeah, I can go on and on and on. So I'm just gonna say thank you to Dr. Lisa for joining us.
I hope I
And
answered a good portion of your questions.
yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. I think you vary every time you come. But like I say, it gets heavy and deep, but at the same time, it's needed. And so I appreciate you for the work that you do and everything like that. And yeah, we're looking forward to the next Dr. Lisa conversation. I don't know. Do this need to be a regular program? Y'all comment below. Let us know. Do Dr. Lisa need to have her own show here on the GSL channel? I don't know. We have to figure it out, because yeah, there's definitely more to discuss when it comes to this conversation, specifically about children and all the different cases of how sex is children and sex. Let's just leave it there. So, but we appreciate you, Dr. Lisa. Thank you so much again.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for watching God, Sex, and Love. And thank you to Dr. Lisa Smith for joining us tonight and sharing with us about minor attracted persons. Friends, I know that this is a heavy and deep conversation, but at the end of the day, they must be had. As you may or may not know, this month of April is Sexual Assault Awareness Month. So by all means, check out Dr. Lisa and see what she has going on in regards to different events and things like that, or check out what's going on in your community, because we need to be more active about all of this. So have a good night.